West Yorkshire, Bradford Council has commissioned a report to look at how well the authority develops its workforce. This report discovered that workers from the black and minority ethnic backgrounds felt overlooked for promotion and that their managers did not recognise their abilities. In response, Bradford Council has accepted the findings and it's agreed to start positive action initiatives. Well, Councillor Ishtiaq Ahmed has been campaigning for more senior managers from ethnic minorities at the authority, and he joins me now. Ishtiaq, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me on, Nick.
How big a problem is this?
Well, unfortunately, it has been known in Bradford for some time that there is a significant gulf in BME talent being utilised in the local government sector. So therefore, the million-dollar question remains, what are we going to do about it? You know, to say that I'm disappointed that there are less BME local authority senior managers, stroke chief executives nationally now than there was 25 years ago is quite an understatement. On the other hand, women have made great strides in redressing the management diversity imbalance, even if I feel there is still a long way to go. Whereas over the same period, numbers of BME candidates reaching senior positions have not just stagnated, but are actually regressing in relative terms.
Have you got any idea what the reason is for this?
Well, look, I don't want to pull on the heartstrings of some sort of moral need for reform, but even if I feel that there is a clear case to do so. Instead, as an elected member and a community development worker, I feel that there is a clearly defined business case to make progress, and quite clearly outlined in this report, which was commissioned by the local authority by Hayes Consultancy.
Sure.
And it clearly stipulates that the focus groups kind of expressed little confidence in the recruitment and selection processes.
Right, okay.
And the Hayes Group report that some of the BME staff felt that some managers do not recognise or acknowledge their capability due to conscious or unconscious bias, you know, and that can be interpreted by some quarters as being discriminatory.
Right, okay, because it seems to me, given the facts, there are two different reasons for this problem. The two reasons are either black and ethnic minority people are simply not as good as we were 20 years ago, or the system is racist.
Well, I think I disagree with you when you say that there's not enough talent within the current BME pool of workers for the local authority. I mean, how can it be that on a local level where people have the most rudimentary interaction with government, that decision makers fail to reflect the diverse communities that they serve? I agree with you,
which for me leaves one conclusion, that the system is institutionally racist.
Absolutely, that's without saying. I mean, I would argue that some minority communities feel detached from their unrepresentative local authority, and this in turn makes necessary services appear unobtainable or completely culturally irrelevant. I mean, at the heart of the local government is the need to deliver for our communities, and that must include all corners. And with Bradford Council facing some of the toughest challenges for a generation, it simply can't continue to function in the same way it always has. I mean, as a collective, local government must work to refresh the skills to meet the challenges ahead. So therefore, it needs to be more flexible and dynamic, moving away from consistently rewarding the status quo set of skills, which has been so prevalent in the sector for years.
We're talking to Councillor Ishtiaq Ahmed about this new research that shows that Bradford Council is failing to develop black and ethnic minority people, members of staff. They're being overlooked for promotion. Their managers did not recognise their abilities. So we're talking about what we can do about this. The words positive action have come up. Are you nervous about those words, Ishtiaq?
Well, I'm not nervous. I'm just intrigued as to whether the real policies will be set in motion to ensure that we tackle this issue. I mean, I believe that a rebalance of BME in senior local government positions could be a key driver for reform in the sector. I mean, as we look to move it beyond the kind of, yes, we've always done it that way kind of attitude, we have to ask ourselves, you know, why the private sector, law firms, financial institutions and other businesses actively seek BME talent, while local and central government find it more challenging.
Whenever I talk about the words positive action, I'm always hearing the argument that if you have the talent, the merit, then you'll get the job. And what this does is it makes people with the merit fall somehow behind.
Well, of course. I mean, research has revealed that the top tier of local government in Britain is overwhelmingly white, and that the BME ethnic people have missed out on top jobs in many of the town halls across the UK. Staff in the highest paid council posts are mostly white, only a handful of BME people feature in key positions, even in local authorities covering areas with a large BME population like Bradford. And much research has shown that many authorities employ predominantly white staff as decision makers, posts that usually have the biggest salaries. So in the case of Bradford Council, it doesn't come close to reflecting their ethnic minority population in their workforce, but actually far worse when forced to reveal the number in the top jobs. I mean, it's inexplicable why talented BME ethnic people are no longer in decision-making positions. But yet, on the contrary, race equality campaigners blame what they claim are institutionally racist local authority processes, such as the selection procedures that have worked against well-qualified BME candidates applying for the top jobs at town halls.
Is there a trickle-down effect? If you don't see managers that look like you, if you don't see managers from BME backgrounds, is there a trickle-down effect to that?
Well, of course there is, because the perception is that the senior managers already in existing positions actually employ people in their own image. And this kind of sends very mixed signals to people about whether there really is opportunity for BME candidates in local government. And there are many barriers facing black people. The first is about actually securing a job within an organisation and then getting on with the organisation, then achieving promotion and securing a senior leadership position. It's much more difficult. I mean, they're talking about talent management. I mean, talent management requires that the right strategy, the right processes, and the right culture in place in the first place. The strategy and processes are generally fit for purpose. The changes that are now needed are about behaviour and leadership. I mean, some of the barriers, that I talked about are selection panels appointing in their own image, BME candidates having less access to significant networking opportunities, a lack of perceived transparency perhaps in the recruitment processes, and a recurrent lack of commitment from leaders in many organisations on diverse recruitment. So, what can be done? That's the question. I mean, efforts to promote local government as a diverse sector haven't simply been enough. We need to find ways to help potential leaders navigate their way through what is often a confusing career path.
Is there any blame that we need to shoulder? Do we need to shoulder any responsibility? Are we perhaps not going for the top jobs? Are we underqualified? We know that Bangladeshi youngsters are underperforming at school. Is any of this our fault?
Well, not really. I mean, this report actually highlights that there is a view that managers have already decided whom to select before shortlisting, and their decisions are seen to be based on the face having to fit rather than the best candidate for the job. So, no, I disagree with that one.
Is there any hope for the future? The fact that the Bradford Council has accepted this research is interesting to me. Do you think that suggests that actually we do have some hope for the future?
Well, I do, and I think everybody in Bradford, as you're aware, Bradford is has a diverse population, and I think everybody has a key role to play. So I'm pretty certain that some of these findings here will be put into action, but then there is apprehension among some quarters to say, well, we've had these talent management programs 15 years ago, and yet we're still here 15 years on talking about some of the same issues. Perhaps some of the possible answers are that there needs to be a recognition of the business case for greater diversity in top jobs with kind of visible role models and more balanced teams and greater alignment with community needs. So there needs to be a recognition that the BME managerial talent which does exist, and perhaps being less risk-averse in senior appointments.
Do you feel, just finally, as frustrated as me, the fact that, as mentioned, 3 years ago I was on a panel talking about this issue? Frankly, I imagine it was 10 years ago now. I was what's the word? I was part of a talent initiative, if you like, where they were looking for BME people, and that was wonderful. But you kind of go, well, all right, can we stop being trained now? Can we just have a job instead? Do you feel that kind of frustration that I'm sensing?
Yes, I mean, I've been a councillor for the last 3 years, and on many occasions I've been asking for a breakdown of some of these statistics, which perhaps hasn't been forthcoming. But, I'm a proud Bradfordian and resident of the city, which has given me so much. I must not be looking back in 5 years or 10 years on a real missed opportunity for reform, particularly in the midst of a significant period of transition. So from a business point of view, I hope, we'll be saying, yes, we can, to that attitude, to having a representative collective workforce. But, yes, we did. I'm ever the optimist.
Ishtiaq, great to speak to you, and I'll remain optimistic with you, my friend.
Thank you very much for having me on.
There we go. That's Councillor Ishtiaq Ahmed speaking about the fact that Bradford Council has accepted the findings that workers from black and minority ethnic backgrounds feel overlooked for promotion and that their managers did not recognise their abilities. If you want to get involved in the conversation tonight, love to hear from you.